So is Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator, and his staff of lieutenants leading the charge in a cultural revolution on the New Orleans Saints roster, team, organization, media, and fan base? Oh, yes, he is. Get ready for this one. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Look, there's no denying the Saints organization has experienced a certain malaise from the front office through the coaching staff, through the players, through the media, down to us fans over the last 2, 3, 4 years, maybe even. I don't know where it started. Don't know how it got to where it is. At this point, it doesn't really matter, but it needs to be fixed. We kind of had that winning culture that was here for a long time, except for a couple brief periods here and there. It's heading back to say the 2014 to 2016 stretch of 7 and 9s mediocrity. That's kind of where our winning culture once again is headed towards. And something needed to be done. There needed to be a change, and I think it's coming because over the last 3 weeks, I noticed a growing trend on the reporting from OTAs. Really, the last four, if you want to throw in rookie minicamp, because obviously I'm not a credentialed member of the media, so I'm not allowed to attend the open sessions of OTAs, and I'm not able to get into the interview sessions and interview coaches and players. So I have to rely on the media that can and the ones I trust. So the last 3 or 4 weeks to get any analysis of what was going on at these activities and to rely on the reporting of guys like John Hendricks, Ross Jackson, Kirk Triplett, Nick Underhill. Uh, didn't mean to refer to Catherine Terrell as a guy. Catherine Terrell, Sean Fazan, even some reports from Bobby Hebert that from WWL. You kind of have to kind of keep searching and really go through this and really consume a lot to be able to get some type of opinion that matters. And while I was doing that, mostly I was looking for bits of information specifically about players or the scheme or whatever. And I think I kind of missed, but I started catching on a trend. I noticed not only were the reporting they were doing on those specific tidbits of information we were all craving, but I noticed it was like a building excitement on the way it was being presented, and even some of the stuff they were talking about. And I saw it not only from the actual reporters talking about it, from players and coaches themselves from the interview, and even from footage that was going on that they were able to film, rather that we were able to view. Some of which is the video that's playing next right there or right there. And that video has, please acknowledge at the bottom of the screen that I do want to acknowledge it's provided by YouTube channels from WGNO TV, WWL, BR Proud News, New Orleans Saints, and Matty Dubs. But this footage is showing as much as what they were talking about, seeing what was being presented. And it seems to be a spark. That's the only word I could really put on it. It's kind of woken everybody up, kind of starting to move the organization as a whole from management down to the fans out of that malaise. A lot of it is, and it's going through the offensive coaching staff. That energy and they're bringing or what they're bringing is creating that energy, and it seems to be coming from Clint Kubiak, the OC, Clancy Barone, the tight end coach, John Benton, the offensive line coach, Derek Foster, as running backs, Andrew Janako, quarterbacks, and Keith Williams, wide receivers. You're talking about, and let's kick in Rick Dennison, senior offensive assistant, who's probably as good or better, maybe even than John Benton at coaching an offensive line. So, I mean, these 8 guys, tons of NFL experience. I hadn't added it up, but I can easily say, yeah, you're clearing 100 years of top quality NFL coaching from this group. and what keeps coming up, and I think what the point is, what's making them that makes them good coaches, is they kind of all exhibit four traits that these are the topics that I keep hearing over and over that they're talking about, and the fact that they can develop players and the way they do it. They bring intensity. They expect players to bring the same intensity and to have a certain rhythm and speed or a tempo to everything they do. And more importantly, and probably the most importantly, and one of the things I think was really, really missing over the last few years, they hold players accountable. And it's well known. They see a mistake, they'll correct it on the spot, right then and there, as soon as they can. And they can instruct players not only as a positional group, so whether you're talking about the whole offensive line from John Benton or Keith Williams as a receiving core, but they all possess an ability to instruct an individual player when that is required because they know everybody has to get better every day. It's something they even talk about in their interviews. And so they're bringing an intensity. And this is one of the things that I do love that a lot of people have brought up in watching the way they coach. It's not necessarily the intensity where they're all yelling and screaming at everybody. They all have distinct different styles that has been pointed out. But the one thing as far as the intensity and even authority is they command the respect of who they're trying to coach, which the way it needs to be. And that same intensity that they coach with, and it's based or basically what they're doing is trying to drive home the point. Every little thing matters. We pay attention to every single little detail. So should you. So should the players. It's the little details, the things that you control to get better at will give you the good results instead of focusing on the results and ignoring the details. And when that conversation is brought up, and I think Dennis Allen once or twice actually in his interviews have spoken exactly along those lines. That is hitting me right here because I felt like that's one of the things that was truly missing the last 2 or 3 years is no real attention to details. Those details causing problems, not being corrected, and really ultimately what you're talking about there is just a lot of lack of accountability, both from the coaching staff and the players themselves. And you cannot win football games with that. And several examples, and I'll bring up one. I think it was Ross Jackson and John Hendricks who talked about, but when they're bringing this intensity and this tempo this of the coaching styles they're bringing, expecting that the players to bring that through the practice, they will stop and start a do-over if it isn't there. And the example that I'm pretty sure it was Hendricks and Jackson brought up was rehuddles that they're expecting when the offense is working as a group, they're in the huddle, they call the play, they break the huddle, they get up to the line of scrimmage. If it doesn't have the proper intensity and tempo from the huddle to the line of scrimmage, stop, make them rehuddle, start over, keep doing it till you get it right. It's a novel idea. I don't know if it existed in the previous coaching staff very much. I think it probably did at Sean at some point, but even I questioned some of this from Sean those last couple of years before he stepped out. It it's been a while, maybe slow, but it's kind of building into what we saw the last couple of years, which just wasn't very good. And this is now what I can comment directly on that I noticed. But they all have all brought up that over these weeks, this kind of building momentum come from this offensive coaching staff. They're seeing more not only player buy-in to what's going on and what they're trying to do, but confidence. And that you can see. Most recently, a couple interviews Chris Olave gave about his confidence level. We've heard repeatedly both coaches and members of the media talking about some confidence level of some key offensive linemen. Three of them come to mind because that's all been subjects of what they've noticed with Ruiz, Penning, and Saldivari. who, as it stands right now, is going into minicamp next week as Ruiz, the right guard, pinning the right tackle, and Salavery, the left guard. It's all positive stuff. All stuff we want to hear. All stuff that should get us excited. It's getting me excited. And I really urge you to go back in the Second and Saints podcast, Hendricks and Jackson, and some of the stuff they talked about the last few weeks. 'Cause I do want to bring up something specific from Wednesday's I believe it was Wednesday's podcast. I know I watched it yesterday, but they have talked pretty much over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and kind of in a growing build-up sort of way, about how much these OTAs, and I'm going to use literally from, like I said, the one I watched yesterday from Ross Jackson, his literal words were dramatically different than what they witnessed the last 2-3 years previous OTAs, all the activities going on this time of year. And to me, that phrase really matters. I think it brings excitement all on its own. And the reason why I do not know for a fact, I have no guarantees that these changes that they're making are going to lead to the results the Saints need, which is basically offense has to score more points so we can win more games. Doesn't get any simpler than that. Don't know if it's going to work. I do not know. But I know this, that if we'd have kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, like we had the last 2, 3, 4 years, and expect different results than what we got, yeah, that's not going to happen. That is literally the definition of insanity. And so I'm kind of very excited, which I'm mostly a pessimistic Saints fan since roughly 2021, that I have some optimism that this may work. This may kill the malaise, just kind of take the whole organization from ownership in the front office all the way down through coaches, through players, through the media, to the fans, us, ourselves, and we can get back to the Super Bowl year heydays, or the last big push that we had from the late teens, 2020, of an organization starting with the owner all the way down to the very last fan to walk into the Superdome on game day. But everybody pushing that train, getting in momentum in the right direction. You can all have the Saints return to that winning culture, expecting to make the playoffs, expecting to win playoff games and make a run, a legitimate run at trying to win a second Super Bowl. So, you think the new offensive staff has kind of started a cultural revolution that was needed, like I do, and you're ready to jump on board the positivity train with me, go ahead and crack the thumbs up for me and give me a like. And if you don't, if you feel differently, I would really like to hear why. Put them down in the comments. Am I missing something here? Am I just being overly optimistic and I drink the Kool-Aid Saints fan? That is a possibility. But for right now, I am choosing to drink the Kool-Aid. Uh, Before we go, I have to acknowledge we have spent an awful lot of time lately on primarily the offense, if not completely on the offense, various reasons. And I think it's kind of always been the big story. But Scott and I have acknowledged we have not nearly been talking enough about the defense. We're just going to start rectifying that on the next long form podcast. So Rumble, 7:00 Central Sunday, YouTube, 6:30 Central Monday. We're going to go ahead and start giving the defense its credit. We're not neglecting them anymore. We're going to invite them to the party. So thank you for watching. Till next time, peace out and who dat.